What if God doesn't answer your prayers in the way you were expecting? And, what if you end up in a place that seems beyond your ability to endure? How do you persevere? And how do you find joy in the midst of fear and doubt? Well, my guest today has a faith-filled and inspiring story that I know it's going to encourage you and strengthen your spirit. Patricia, welcome to 100 Huntley Street.
Thank you. What a fun way to spend a day.
Well, I should say welcome back because you've been here once before many years ago.
Actually, I've been here twice.
Okay.
But once when I was 19, and then after that, about 10, 13 years ago.
So not that long ago then.
Not that long ago.
Great. Well, this is a real honor for me. It's a joy because I get to talk to another fellow PAOC global worker.
Fantastic.
And for those who don't know, that means a missionary overseas. And you guys are about to go back to Thailand, so we're going to talk about that in a little bit. But what we like to do is, for people who may not remember the first couple of times you were here, we call it your Jesus journey. Tell us a little bit about how you came to faith and how you grew up.
Well, I came to faith because as a young child, I always had an inkling for something bigger and wanting to know about Jesus. There was a big school bus that would drive by our house in Oshawa every Sunday and pick us up and take us to Sunday school.
Okay.
And that was my beginning. And from there, I just captured the heart of God and the heart of Jesus through the songs, through missionettes, Sunday school teachers who took a special interest in me, and just decided that I'm going to love Jesus and I want to live my life in a way that shows that.
Okay, and so you grew up with that faith, and then what tends to happen to some of us as we get a little bit older, we kind of start to wander away from the Lord. And I know that you had an experience that involves this ministry that brought you back to Christ. Share a little bit about that.
So I did wander. My dad moved our family from Oshawa to Manitowocz, Ontario.
Oh, I preached
when
there.
I was 14.
Yeah.
And so I went from a high school in Oshawa of 2,000 to a town of 2,000. In Oshawa, I was a wallflower. All that mattered was getting good grades. I wanted to be an athlete. I wanted to be a doctor. I wanted to be an artist. Had all these things, and I was attending a high school where I could do all those things. And I moved to this small town with my family, and the first day we get there, and I felt like a foreigner, and I didn't know how to be a wallflower when everybody's wearing denim. You can't get away with wearing polyester. So I just had to adapt to this culture.
Okay.
The teen culture. Compromised everything that I knew in my heart I wanted to be. Compromised everything that I had become so far. And started doing things to fit in with the teens and the youth in the town. The parties and the drinking and skipping school and lying to my parents and quit going to church and living a lie and telling the lies until when I was 19, I knew that I had become somebody that I didn't like anymore. That even my friends wouldn't like me for much longer if I continued that way.
Wow.
And I knew that I needed to get back to that faith of my childhood. So I just left Manitowocz on my own. I went back to Toronto. In the meantime, on the way back, I got stopped in a party group of people. Even though I wanted to head back and change everything around, there was this weakness inside of me. And we spent the whole night partying and got back to the hotel. It was 3 a.m. In the middle of downtown Toronto, alone in this dingy hotel room.
Oh, wow.
And feeling ashamed of myself, and why did I do that? And I turned the TV on at 3 a.m.
3 a.m.
And there was David Mainse.
Wow.
Staring at me with his elbow on his knee.
I love that, staring at you.
Pointing right into the screen.
Yeah.
And he said to me, "You are God's child, and you can never go too far from the Father." Wow. And I just broke down, weeping and crying, and I knew that in that moment, there was no going back. And I got out of that hotel the next day, got into Oshawa, went back to the same church that of the yellow school bus that would pick me up, and turned around completely. Within less than 1 year, I was in Bible school, and our group was right here singing in front of these cameras here at 100 Huntley Street.
Unbelievable. You know, as you're talking, of course, that verse comes to mind that, you know, train up a child in the way they should go, and when they're older, they won't depart. And you really did come back, and you and your husband now have committed your lives to serving God. I want to make sure I get this right. You guys, your missionary lifestyle has taken you all around the world. I mean, you guys served for many years in Quebec, in Thailand, in Paris, and you're going to be going back to Thailand shortly.
Yes.
What are some experiences throughout all that time serving that jump out at you where you're like, wow, I can't believe God just did that, or I got to be a part of what God is doing?
Well, there's so many things because we've been doing it for so long. 10 years in Quebec, and then 22 years in Thailand.
Yeah.
And most recently, 11 years in France. And I guess the things that jump out at me are not just what we see God doing in people's lives, but to be transformed through those people as well. And to see the people that we minister to coming off the streets and coming out of these dire situations to actually turn their lives around, transformed, and now they're serving. And I remember saying to people when we would give them food or clothing or help them out, they'd feel so bad and they'd say, oh, I wish I could do something for you. I said, one day you will be doing something. You won't always be a refugee. One day you will be able to give forward, and we're going to celebrate that day. So I love those stories of the people who we see them actually turning around and serving as well.
I mean, what a privilege, right? As somebody who's called to serve overseas, that you get to pour into somebody's life, and you have no idea maybe what that person is going to do one day.
That's right.
You know, stories are great and highlights are great, but there's a lot of lonely moments when you're serving in a foreign country. You're far away from what you know. You're far away from maybe some friends and family, and you experience some difficult times overseas. How did you get through those times?
Oh my goodness. Well,
in 5 minutes.
I would have loved to escape somehow. When we got to Thailand, nothing could have prepared us for what we
Like culture shock, you mean?
The culture shock, the temperature, the heat, the way things were done. I came from Canada, where human rights and the rights of women and the rights of children is a completely different existence. So when I got to Thailand, and we were only 30 years old, and we had 3 children with us, and there was no internet, and the phone calls were choppy and broken. And my husband, he hit the ground running. He was Mr. Missionary, and he was ready to go and do. And I was at home with 3 small children, trying to navigate life in a city of millions of people, Bangkok, and adjust and adapt. And I ended up actually hating my life, just getting by, trying to go through the motions, knowing what I'm supposed to do. I'm not supposed to feel like this. I'm supposed to love being here. This is my calling. I'm serving Jesus, and we need to be saving souls, and all the pressure and expectation.
Yeah,
and
it's really good on paper, but then you got to live it out, right?
Inside, I was the worst missionary because I didn't want to be there. And so I found ways to escape in my imagination. And once the internet came, I actually applied online for my husband to get other jobs, for Peter to get jobs with another organization somewhere else in the world. And I found our house, I found my job where the children could go to school. It was just like playing Barbies in my head. But I wanted to escape. I needed things to be a certain way before I could be happy. And I thought I knew how things needed to be in order to be happy. But the world and my husband and my children, nobody got my memo. Nobody could read my mind of this is how the world has to be in order for Pat to have a good time being a great missionary. And so I had to learn that the hard way.
So, okay, what did God teach you in that season? About obedience.
Well, I think there are two words that jump out. The first one would be connectedness. And the second is surrender.
That's the big one.
That's the big one. So I found people who looked like they were enjoying life. And I would ask them, I was on a quest. How do you go through life without everything pressing your button? The cockroaches, the ants in your food, the spiders, the heat, the cultural things. How do you not let things push your buttons? One day I met a man and he said to me, I have no expectations. I said, well, what do you mean? You just write everything off and say, nothing is going to be good anyway, so I just expect nothing and then I'll be happy? He said, no. I start off complete. I have everything I need. Anything on top is just icing. And I realized in that moment, so I'm the cake, but the icing is the extra. And so to be content in what I have enough. And I shouldn't be walking through the world feeling in need of somebody to affirm me, of something to make me comfortable, of something from the outside making me feel something. I needed to learn that I carry this capacity for joy. I carry the capacity for forgiveness and love. That's because I'm created in God's image.
Amen.
So that was the beautiful beginning of a transformation. Surrender and connectedness. I was sitting in a gathering one day. For 14 years, I had been Mrs. Pastor Peter's wife. And in Thailand, the titles are important. And so I was Kun Panraya Kong Sasanajan Peter DeWit. That's a long title.
Sure.
But nobody knew me. They knew me in connection to my husband. And I wasn't connected. That was my fault too. One day I'm in a room with some people, some Americans and Koreans and some Thai people, and we had been gathering, and these people had been showing me in a fresh way the image of God and how we can live this robust faith in this incredible city. They'd been reteaching me the city. And one person said, they referred to me as P. Pat. Now in Thailand, you have these pronouns for each person that are family pronouns. So P. Pat was big sister. Oh. And so instead of being the wife of Mr. Reverend Pastor Peter, in that second, somebody connected me as the sister. And I melted. And the connectedness, and that just started to grow in me in every facet of life in Thailand and in Bangkok. So it changed the way I saw the city completely. And so they're not just horrible drivers on the street. These are people who could be my dad or my brother or my sister trying to get home. They're just tired and they're just trying to get home, just like me. And gradually this connectedness changed my eyes and the way I saw the city, the way I saw people, the way I saw culture, and the way I saw myself. And to surrender with the circumstances. One man in a noodle shop, I went every day to get noodles. That's where we went. It was pouring rain. And I said to him, just creating conversation, I said, aren't you tired of all this rain? And he said, why would I worry about something I can't control?
Right.
Wow. And the sermon from the noodle shop guy just helped transform.
That's a title for a book.
A book, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, listen, you've had an incredible, experience. I know you guys are getting ready to go back to Thailand for a whole new mission and phase of life. And I want you to know that you are a friend of 100 Huntley Street, and you have people here who care about what you're doing. And as a fellow missionary, I understand the challenges, and I just want to honor you and your husband, who's here with us in studio, for what you're doing. It's not easy. And sometimes we don't know if we're really making a difference in all the challenges, but one day when we stand before God, we're going to see the difference that we've made in eternity. So I just want to bless you as you guys go back, and thank you for sharing the connection of this ministry in your life, and God bless you as you continue serving Him.
Thank you.
Amen.